Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is my fears that the West may be, and I emphasise maybe, cozying up to a terrorist who until very, very recently had a $10 million bounty on his head by the American government. So this story started thoughts in my head when I saw Macron cozying up with some rather close photographs of Mohammad al-Julani, who at one point was on, as I say, America's Most Wanted list. And he's got two names. He's also known as Ahmed al-Sharaa, one of whom was a well-known criminal, and the other one who is the new president of Syria. But he's the same person. Now, this guy's past is pretty scary. And I must admit, some of the stuff recently goes against what you would suggest was a terrorist. For example, he was involved with al-Qaeda, and his group were helped by them numerous times in Syria. But he did put them at arm's length quite some time ago. So I'm kind of unsure about the guy. But when you look at his past up to a certain time, you would just have him nowhere near you or your country. And the reason I'm a wee bit concerned is some people are suggesting that Keir Starmer is going to invite him to the UK on a sort of state visit type thing. And I just think, what are we doing, right? And also, the guy is now been proclaimed as the interim president of Syria on the short-term basis. But that short-term being 5 years. He's not been voted in democratically. He was appointed as this interim job and is now been confirmed he'll be the president of Syria, but he was never voted in. So this sort of stinks of almost dictatorship. When you factor that into his previous as a wanted terrorist, and he's a member of groups that are still to this day prescribed in the United Kingdom, but now the West are cozying up to him, it seems that we've got some severe double standards. It's severe double standards in terms of we're not to accept terrorists, we're not to accept dictators. However, if they're any good to us, then that's now suddenly acceptable. And I don't see the world in that way. I think if you're a bad one, you're a bad one. So how, now listen, you might be a nice guy. So why would we creating this myth of him being a terrorist right up till like 2 minutes ago? So he was, as I say, he was making the de facto leader after the revolution to get rid of the previous guy who wasn't quite liked. He's now a baddie. He was a goodie at one point. Now he's a baddie, and this guy that was a baddie became the goodie when he became the de facto leader after Bashar al-Assad had to flee to Russia back in December 2024. And then in the end of January, he was appointed the president of Syria at the Syrian Revolution Victory Conference held in the presidential palace. And as I say, with this transitional government, so he's head of this transitional government. He can allowed to make his own selections and these ministers. He's appointing all the ministers, but he's never been elected. And it comes to light that this transitional government that they've put in place is in power for 5 years with no election. And I mean, if it was a transitional government for maybe 12 months to allow the, some stability back in the country and allow the people that they all say that they've got the best interests at heart of, maybe allow them to do something crazily democratic like vote, right? But it's his early stuff that's a bit mental. Now, he's actually a Saudi middle-class family. That sort of rings a bell with another scary guy for our past, who was, to be fair, he did move to Syria in 1989 when he was 7 years old in an affluent area in Damascus. And he was trying to find his... al-Sharaa, as he was one of his names, travelled from Damascus to Baghdad by bus just weeks before the 2003 US invasion of Iraq. In 2003, detained and questioned by the Syrian Military Intelligence Directorate for his legal departure from Syria to Iraq, but was released after denying any affiliation to any political party or extremist groups. Once in Iraq, al-Sharaa quickly rose through the ranks of al-Qaeda in Iraq, nonetheless. And in 2013, it was claimed that he was a close associate of Abu Musab al-Zakri, who was the leader of al-Qaeda. In 2021, an interview with Frontline, al-Sharaa denied ever meeting him and asserted that he served only as a regular foot soldier under al-Qaeda against the American occupation. So he's not denying he was part of al-Qaeda, he's just denying the level he reached. So the fact that he's, an al-Qaeda member, you seem to have forgot all about that. So then what happened, he, upon release from prison, coincided with the Syrian Revolution. Al-Sharaa was tasked in 2011 by Ayman al-Zawahiri and al-Qaeda's Central Command to establish al-Qaeda's mission in Syria. That would suggest he was quite high up. He crossed into Syria with significant funding and a mandate to establish al-Qaeda's presence. It's just mental. So war crimes under al-Shari's leadership, al-Nusra Front, this was the gang he was involved with, perpetrated a series of war crimes, suicide bombings, forced conversations, ethnic cleansing and sectarian massacres against Syria's Christians, Alawite, Shia and Druze minorities. This guy's now the president of the country. In 2015, al-Nusra fighters killed Druze villagers during the Qual Labs massacre. The Saudi state-owned Al Arabiya news network claimed that al-Nusra's leadership denounced the attack, asserting the actions to the attackers were in contradiction of the organisation's policy. So that made that all right. They were also suspected of carrying out the 10th of May 2012 Damascus bombing, killing 55 people and injuring over 400. And the February 2013 Damascus bombings, which killed 83 people. They claimed the storming and cleansing of Hatia, during which 30 to 60 Shia civilians were killed. In 2016, rebels led by them massacred 42 civilians and 7 NDF militia and kidnapped up to 70 people after taking a village in southern Hama. But then, he had a wee fallout with ISIS. Well, that's quite handy, yeah? Just as well for that. Or, al-Qaeda's no bad enough.
Staying up to date with events around the world can be difficult, where it's impossible to consult a single source for the full story. Narratives that shape public opinion often just reinforce media and corporate-backed vested interests. It's hard to know what information to trust. See what the media is exaggerating, sensationalising, over or under reporting. That's why I've been using Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines news from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. For every news source, you can see if it has any political bias, how reliable the reporting is, and who owns them. They even have a blind spot feed that highlights news disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. Take a data-driven view on the news and stay current. Get news from thousands of sources worldwide in one place. I've been using Ground News to help me get all the world's news in one place and give a more balanced opinion on what we read and viewing who is telling us the truth and who isn't. Subscribe via my link to get 40% off the Vantage subscription. It's the one I use to get unlimited access to every feature. Your subscription can not only help my channel, but also help Ground News, as it makes the media landscape more transparent.
And he denounced ISIS at one time in his life, but at the start of Operation Inherent Resolve, the US-led coalition's airstrike campaign against ISIS in Syria, al-Sharaa, in a rare public declaration, described the airstrikes as an assault on Islam and warned the Western public, "This is what we will take the battle to the heart of your land. For the Muslims will not stand as spectators watching their sons be bombed and killed in their lands while you stay safe in your lands." So what he's basically saying there is, I don't like ISIS, or so he claimed, but when they were attacked by America, he's threatened everybody in the West that we're coming to get you. This guy is now the president of Syria. This guy is now hoy-toying it with Macron, and this guy has now been taken off America's most wanted list because the Yanks are suddenly quite happy with him. And this guy, it is suggested by some, will be getting welcomed by Keir Starmer in Britain in the not-too-distant future. And that can't be right. So if you want this video to be seen by more people, do 1, 2 or 3 of the following things. Click the like button, put some comments below, or hit share. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notifications bell if you want to be told when I put out some more videos. But most importantly of all, unless you're a one-time jihadi who's now a dictator in a place without being voted in, without going through any democratic process, and you're now suddenly going to be welcomed by the West, who wanted to put a $10 million bounty in your head up until a matter of weeks ago, then not you. But
everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.